Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to give you a tour of the goat shed, kind of show you how I have it set up, how we have it set up. It's pretty much, the goats have a 10 by 10 shed, and we're able to fit everything in there for our hay, our feed, wheelbarrow, stuff to clean it out. I never would have thought that I could fit everything in there, but with some time and working through all the different things, we've been able to have a pretty good setup. So on the outside, we have a latch that falls back over top, so it can't just be shoved up. That way, in case an animal shows up, they can't easily open the door. And then you can see, when we step inside, zoom out a little bit, we don't have a very big run, more or less where the people stand. The goats have a 6 by 10 foot area that they're in, and then this side's about 4 by 10, making up the 10 by 10 shed. I have a feed rack on this wall, and we had to put that in recently because the boys weren't letting Sophie eat hay. So when I was able to divide it up and put it across the pen, they were a lot more willing to share. On this side, they have their water bucket. They have their hay rack that goes along that whole wall. They have a spot for minerals and baking soda. Sometimes we have a mineral block in. Looks like they've chewed that one up for their entertainment. And then that is the door that goes outside into their outdoor run. This side over here would be where the chicken coop is. We were able to put a sliding door on here for the chicken coop, and it hooks on the bottom with just 2 plain hooks. We're able to slide the door open, and then this is the chicken coop part. So theirs is pretty big and open, which is good. That way, if it's raining and miserable and they can't go outside, they still have quite a bit of space. They have a taller block for the water. It helps keep the water up off of the floor. And also when I have to plug in the heated water, it makes it so the cord will actually reach the outlet. The other thing that we have in here is we do have a light. And then we also have an outlet on the ceiling in case we need to put in a heat lamp. I don't plan to. I don't love using heat lamps. But in case we do need one, we have the ability pretty easily. And then this over here is where the nesting boxes. So we can see that we have plenty of room for nesting. Each one has a golf ball in it. Frank must have been in this one recently. He has a way of crawling in and disrupting it. Or burying the eggs. He's done that before too. And then that goes outside to their run, so they can go outside and hang out. So on this side, you can see I can put all my hay over there, the wheelbarrow. We have a rack for the rake, the shovel, the sawdust fork, and the pitchfork that I have hung up. I'm able to fit usually about 5 bales of hay in here. And then all the pumpkins that I had out for Halloween have moved in here so that I can easily give them to the goats. I usually crack them open and throw them in, and as you can see, the goats eat everything but the outside, huh, Leroy? Yes. And then over here, I'm able to keep chicken feed. I have some alfalfa pellets for when it's really cold to feed to Sophie. And grain. I have the grain buckets that I put the grain in for the goats every morning. They only get like a small handful. Chicken treats, baking soda, and then collars and lead ropes for the goats. I won't leave collars on them in their pen. Just too many bad experiences with that. So I actually don't keep collars on my goats unless I'm taking them outside to go for a walk or any of that. Towel, because you never know when you're going to need that. And I have some chicken stones in here. I think some fly spray and a brush up there on that shelf. And then what I do to usually, this year what we're trying to do to keep the shed a little warmer. You can see that the chicken coop has the same thing. We have insulation board up, so this way there's insulation in the walls. Because it's only a batten board, there's actually quite a bit of space between the boards and outside, so it lets quite a bit of airflow in. So we put the insulation up just to kind of block a little bit more of the wind and prevent that. And then we did the same thing this year in the chicken coop, or in the goat shed that we did in the chicken coop. Last year we had foil wrap, and we had foil wrapped pretty much the whole shed, at least the upper half. Goats love to chew on insulation, love to chew on anything. As much as my husband wants to believe that they won't, they do. So we've been covering everything with plywood where they can reach, or zip board. And then where they don't have access to, we haven't bothered to cover it yet. So we have one little section left to kind of podge some in. And then we did this last year. We have to settle in this last board. We do insulation on the ceiling, so it helps to keep the hot air from going too far up and keeps it circulating down here. The other thing, you can see that plug out there. That plug actually runs outside, and we have a geothermal system set up, and that's going to hopefully help keep the floor from freezing, is the plan. So we dug in a big trench this spring underneath where the goat paddock is outside, actually. Ran 200 feet of piping, filled that with antifreeze, and then we have a pump hooked up outside that's circulating antifreeze through the ground up into pipes that run underneath the flooring of both the goat shed and the chicken coop. And then hopefully the plan is to be able to use the natural heat in the ground to help radiate a little bit of heat just to keep the floor from freezing. Huh, Sophie? Just to keep it a little warmer for you. So far it seems to be working really well. Same with the insulation. It keeps a lot of the chill off in here. So it's still cool. For the most part, it's just getting rid of the wind that we have, but it's not uncommon here for it to get below zero, and it's really not uncommon to spend an entire 24 hours below zero, if not longer. So we want to be able to protect these guys, seeing as there's not a lot of them, to create enough body heat to warm this whole building. Help create a little bit of supplemental heat and hold in as much as possible while still having airflow so that we don't have animals getting sick. So that's kind of a tour of the goat shed and what we have going on here. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.